Have you ever wondered why we get injured? Or why some runs are really good and some runs are really bad with no apparent reason? Or even just the process the body goes through in order to improve? Because the chances are you got into running and just ran. But I think by simply understanding what's going on beneath the surface with our bodies allows us to harness them even more and get the absolute best out of them. So here are my 10 things that runners should know, but probably don't, body edition. And here's the deal, if you learn something new, consider subscribing to the channel so that you can learn some things new.
This one is probably one of my favourite points, and it's about one of the greatest tricks your body can play on you for the positive. See, did you know that when you go running any type of speed, any type of distance, your body wants you to do that again? It might not know it at the time, but it wants you to do that again. So it does something really, really clever. And that is that it releases endorphins into your body. And what endorphins are, the easiest way to explain them is they're a feel-good hormone, something to kind of reward you for what you're doing and encourage you to get back at it another time. Some people call it the runner's high after they finish running, but it's a way, like when you hug someone, your body releases a different hormone, oxytocin, which makes you want to hug again because it's rewarding, like, what's the word, Mary? It's a rewarding connection. And I'll be honest with you, I'm expecting a big dollop of feel good right now after that session, and that's what it's all about. It's what keeps us coming back. And whilst I know that some people say they don't experience the runner's high all of the time, if you persevere, you can learn to harness it, because what else it does is to keep you coming back is it is also a pain relief. So the hormones actually kind of dull pain from hard sessions as well. So it's a win-win on all sides. I absolutely love it, and it's such a good trick played by the body. Why do you think we keep coming back?
What I love about the body is that there are so many layers to it, and I mean that kind of almost literally as well, because when people come to the gym, they tend to work out the muscles that they can see, thinking that they're the ones that are going to help them running. And they are. So you work out your big dominant muscles like the quads on the front of the legs and the hamstrings at the back of the legs, but they're the muscles that I can actually see in the mirror. And they will definitely help you run, of course they will. But there's another set of muscles that you can't see in the mirror, and I don't mean the ones on your back, because you can still see them, but there's another set of muscles you can't see in the mirror that are equally as important, and they're called your core muscles. Now, core muscles can't really be trained very well with weights. So when you see people doing planks and things like this, they're actually working on the muscles that lay beneath the surface and stabilize the body. They're actually the platform for the bigger, stronger muscles to kind of push off of. If you have a strong core, the muscles beneath the visible muscles, then it's kind of like doing a push-up on a really stable surface like this, okay? Pretty easy. But if your core is weak, then it could be a little bit like trying to do a press up on an unstable surface, okay? That's a lot harder for me to do, and that's because I have a weaker core. Do you like the analogy? So whatever you do, just make sure you spend a really good portion of your time on your core, as well as those muscles like the quads, the hamstrings, the hip flexors, the gluteus maximus, that's your bum, all of those things. Because what's the point in having those big strong muscles if you've got no platform to push off of?
Most runners have what training does backwards. The thought is you train, and you get stronger. But here's the thing, it's not the training that makes you stronger, it's the repair and recovery after, it's the not training. Training is a trauma to the muscles, millions of micro tears, so the body repairs them and it makes them stronger. And you know what the body can't do properly if you just keep throwing training at it? It can't repair or recover properly. Sure, it does a bit, but not as much as it could if you factored in proper rest. So now we know this, what do we do about it? Well, that bit's easy. We train hard, and then we recover harder. Anything other than this, in my opinion, is driven by ego rather than genuinely wanting to improve. You train, you rest up, you level up.
Something that always causes a lot of debate in the comments of our videos is discussions of heart rate. And the fact is, no two hearts are the same. So your heart rate zones will be very different from someone else's heart rate zones. And when you realise that and work them out properly, you can get the most out of your training and your running. So for example, we might record a run and say we ran in the 150s heart rate in zone 2, and people will be like, what? How are you in zone 2 in 150? Well, that is my zone 2. Every heart is a different size, pumps a different amount of blood, and heart rates will differ. A good example is Miguel Indurain, the cyclist. His resting heart rate was something like 29 beats per minute. So that's one extreme. Some elite athletes can have quite a high resting heart rate. There is no right or wrong. The only thing is that everyone is different. So for me personally, I'm running, my heart rate is currently 154. That's comfortably in zone 2. Some of my friends right now who are running with me might be at 138. It doesn't mean that one of us is doing better than the other. It's just that our hearts are working differently. So if you don't yet know your proper heart rate zones, then I'm sorry, but you're going to have to do a hard 5K and work them out the proper way. Here's a video to show you how. So just knowing this information can be a really powerful tool. It can help you to really target your training and make everything really specific.
What you might not know is that when you start exercising, your body has this great way of getting fuel to the muscles. But in order to do that, it has to divert blood flow from other stuff that is happening. So why I'm telling you this is because I think when people eat a little bit too near to a training session or a race, what they don't realise is that the food that is being digested in their stomach suddenly won't be digested as well, because the blood flow that's going to the stomach to help this process gets diverted to the working muscles, because suddenly you're exercising. So if you're ever out there and you're racing and you have like gastric distress, or if you have stitch sometimes or stomach cramp, it's possibly because you haven't left enough time between eating and then exercising for that food to digest and then the body to be able to do other things. So if it has to divert early from digesting food, you could be in trouble. So just give yourself the time that you need in order to perform the way that you want. Just give yourself time between eating and training, essentially.
One thing I'm certain everybody knows is that your body needs energy in order to exercise, but what you might not have known is that your body, of the two main energy stores it uses, has a limited supply on the one hand and a theoretically unlimited supply on the other hand. So when we exercise, our body uses this blend of two energy stores, and that's carbohydrates and fat. On the one hand, fat is a slow process of giving us energy but gives us a lot of energy, and on the other hand, carbohydrates is a really messy process, gives you not much energy but quick energy. So on the easier runs, your body uses fat because it's not too stressed and it can take its time to get you as much energy as possible. But on harder runs, your body uses carbohydrates because it needs it more, and it needs it more immediately. So the balance is shifted. And although you can train your body to be better at using fat, it is definitely not as easy as run slow, use fat, run fast, use carbs. Let's take this scenario as an example. You're running easy, your body's using fat, but actually at the same time it is already using carbohydrates in different things like helping your brain work. But when you start going up hills, or then you start just is tweaking out of zone 2 towards the end of your run, what energy system do you think your body's going to need? It's carbohydrates. You see, your body has about a 90-minute store of carbohydrates in it, but also you've got to put it back in. So it won't be a surprise for you to find out that almost every elite athlete and top athlete has a carb-centered, not carb-heavy, carb-centered diet, and you should too, so that you get the balance right.
This one's a kind of be kind to yourself, give yourself a break message, but what I need everybody to know is that weight in itself is a flawed metric, because there's so much going on in the body that if you just stand on the scales and take that as given as it is what you are, it's not telling the whole story, because everybody has different amounts of adipose, which some people call fat. They have different amounts of muscle, but it doesn't necessarily mean that if you just lose weight that your running performance will increase. In fact, sometimes it's quite the opposite. And also, that's the type of thing that can cause eating disorders. If someone says to you, you know what, if you just lose a little bit of weight, you're gonna be faster. Absolute rubbish. I say a runner is all shapes and sizes, they are all weights, they are all different levels of fat and muscle, it doesn't matter. Celebrate the body you're in, because what you're looking for is an instrument, not an ornament. So if I were you, do what we have done, completely ditch the scales from your lives, give yourself a break and just get out there and run with joy.
One thing that can affect female athletes and runners and not males is the menstrual cycle. It's slightly complex, it's very individual. The best thing you can do is to understand the cycle, know the phases of the cycle, know how it affects your body individually, and then accept and work around that. First phase is the follicular phase, and it starts on day 1 of your cycle, and this is when we should be strongest, especially after day 5 or 6. You can get the biggest strength gains. Research has proven that. The science then tells us that the luteal phase, which is the second half really, after ovulation of your cycle, we feel like female runners are going to struggle. It's going to be harder to hit your best times, to be at your peak. But remember, it's not true for everyone. You might not feel like that at the tail end of your cycle, so don't let the timing put you off racing at that time or giving it your all, because records have been recorded for females at all different times of their cycles against what the science tells us. So know your body, work out your body, track your cycle, and hopefully you can get the best out of yourself and your body, and the exercise will help your cycle as well have less impact on you and still be feeling good.
Right, I'm gonna have to go off on one about this, because I talk to the kids that I teach all the time about this. Your body is the greatest supercomputer that there has ever been. Let's say you're exercising and you find it hard. That's good, that's necessary, because what happens is the brain sends signals to the body. It goes, oh, I didn't really like that level of discomfort, I didn't like that feeling. I know, I'm going to send signals to the muscles, to the body, to try to improve it, to make it better, to make it stronger. So the next time, it won't be as painful. And that process can just be repeated over and over again. So as Eliud Kipchoge kind of says, pain is absolutely necessary in training. Without pain, you cannot grow. There's the saying about the tree without wind will grow tall, but the tree that has wind will grow strong. And that's how you got to look at it. You need adversity and pain in your training in order for your muscles, for your heart, for everything to get stronger and you to improve. So essentially, you need to seek out discomfort, because the brain knows and it will send signals and it will make you better. And I love that about the body.
Have you ever thought just how weird it is that a bag of meat, water and bone can just stand up on 2 feet, given how complex that might actually be? Well, think about just how many muscles have to be involved in the running process. It's over 200 in fact. And if any of those muscles are having a bad day, week or even month, then the body is equally amazing at compensating. So the point I want to make is, overuse injuries don't just tend to come from nowhere. They're usually a build-up over time of muscles compensating for a weaker muscle and then finally not being able to take any more and then injury. So a lot of the time, the muscle that gets injured, it isn't actually the problem. It was the one doing the hard work for the muscle that was the problem. And it's why it's so important to do strength and conditioning even if you think you don't need it, because you never know what's actually going on. So invest in the strength and conditioning early and often, and hopefully avoid the issues.
And if this video brought you value or you learned something new, then consider clicking the subscribe button, but no hard sell. And if you liked the video, you're definitely going to like this one along the same veins, which is the 10 things runners should do, but probably don't. And I'll see you next Sunday.